What's up guys, DanielWarGamer 1945. Today we're going to reaction the Matthew Santoro. I say it right. Today we're going to reaction the top 10 Ouija board terrifying story. Okay, I make sure you subscribe for the Matthew Santoro because he have million subscribers. I love the video. He have the top 10 funniest, top 10 weird, top 10 fat, and top 10 blow your mind. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to quickly say I'm going to edit the video. The Girl and Pencil Room Warrior soundtrack coming up soon, episode 9. Make sure. I have the worst problem because I'm so scared. I got, you know. I know. You know, you like the Girl and Pencil comment. Yeah, I know you like soundtrack myself, but we're going to reaction the top 10. Don't worry, we're going to reaction the Simple History and the Kenshin video, the Friday night costume night, because I say FNAF, right? Yeah, FNAF. Yeah, I know. It's so many are going to reaction because so many awesome videos is coming up soon. Yeah, I know. So many videos out there. But sure, we're going to see about scary. I know about say about scary. We're going to see the terrifying scary, the Ouija board. Top 10 the buying Matthew Santoro.
Never used a Ouija board, that's probably a good thing. Many people believe that doing so invites the dead into your home. And while some people use it as entertainment or even to contact their loved ones who have passed away, sometimes it opens the doorway to something much darker.
It was a darker. And not like at all.
Here are 10 terrifying Ouija board stories.
Okay.
Number 10 is Stephen Young. Demonic forces are well known for using Ouija boards to cause disaster, disruption, and dismay. In one case, such a demonic creature even ruined a court trial. The trial took place in 1994 and involved Stephen Young, a man from England who was accused of shooting Nicola and Harry Fuller. Stephen Young was initially found guilty of the crime, but he was granted an appeal when it was revealed that 4 of the jurors involved had been using a Ouija board. The board had actually claimed that Stephen Young was guilty, and the jurors took this as fact, and it even influenced the other jurors to conform to this way of thinking. Because of this, another trial was held, but Stephen Young was still found guilty of both murders. The saddest thing is that the retrial caused much misery for the victims' families, which may have been the demonic spirit's evil intention all along.
Yeah, it was.
Number 9 is Maddie Turley.
Kill an entire family. I mean, yeah.
Some people believe that forces can use a Ouija board as a conduit into a human being. That not only can the Ouija board present confusing and misleading information, but that it has direct control over a person's behavior, even making them commit murder. That's one explanation for a case from 1933 when a 15-year-old girl named Maddie Turley shot her father Ernest point blank with a shotgun. In the days before the incident, Maddie had been using a Ouija board with her mother, which insisted that Ernest had to be executed. When Maddie finally confessed to the murder, she simply said, and I quote, "The board could not be denied." Maddie served 3 years in a prison before being released, and only she and her mother really know the truth about what happened that fateful day. Number 8 is Eugenie Carpenter. Perhaps the earliest case on record of a Ouija board being used by a malevolent force is the 1891 account of Bostonian Eugenie Carpenter. Eugenie had married at an early age and was deserted by her husband. Heartbroken, she tried to move on with her life, but it was the hope that her estranged husband would one day return to her that helped her through the years. However, years later, Eugenie heard about the new witchboard craze, that it could answer questions from beyond and even predict the future. And so she bought one. She returned home and eagerly began asking the Ouija board questions. When she asked if her husband would return to her, the board simply said, "No, he has ceased to love you and will never return." This finally robbed Eugenie of all hope, and she immediately suffered a complete mental breakdown soon after, which ultimately led to her death.
Oh my god.
Number 7 is the San Juan incident.
No, okay. Stop. Okay. That was scary because the husband said no. That mean, oh my god. It was scary. Oh my goodness. I guess we didn't make contact. Something was going on. It maybe. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh man. Wow. Oh my goodness. Johnson. I'm maybe scared because that thing may scare you. That story may scare you because they're hunting you like dream nightmare. Wow. You know what? I take it to top 10. Okay, I take it to what number 1? It just say name was I forgot. Okay. Let's begin. Okay, let's begin.
In 2014, 3 friends in the southwest Mexican village of San Juan thought that playing with a Ouija board would be harmless fun. However, they soon learned of its demonic power. Alexandra, Sergio, and Fernando, who were using the board together, were quickly overwhelmed by a dark demonic force. Alexandra began convulsing before going into a trance-like state, and Fernando and Sergio began to experience blindness, hallucinations, and a strange numbness which coursed throughout their entire body. After a local priest refused to exorcise the 3 teenagers, an ambulance was called and they were taken to a local hospital for treatment. Medical experts confirmed that they were in an altered state and could only bring them out of it with medication as soon as the possession finally wore off. Number 6 is Carol Sue Elvaker.
It's not game. It is like
In 2001, 53-year-old Carol Sue Elvaker was arrested in Lincoln County. The authorities suspected that she had stabbed her son-in-law, 34-year-old Brian Roach, to death. This tragedy was initially seen as a horrendous but all too common domestic violence death. However, when police interviewed Elvaker as well as other witnesses, it proved to be demonic in nature. As it turns out, Elvaker and her 3 daughters were playing with a Ouija board, while Brian Roach slept in another room. Convinced by the board that Brian was truly evil, Elvaker went into the other room and murdered him. She then put her daughters in a car and attempted to kill them by crashing into a barrier. Thankfully, no one else was killed, but many believe that the shadowy demonic forces at play had already been fully satisfied by Brian Roach's sacrifice. Number 5 is Pearl Curran.
I'm so scared right now.
In some cases of Ouija board use, intelligent entities latch onto the user, never letting them rest. One famous case of this is the psychic Pearl Curran. Pearl was relatively uneducated and believed that Ouija boards were nothing but nonsense. She became horrified when she finally used one with some friends, and she was contacted directly by a spirit called Patience Worth. Patience claimed to have died in England during the 17th century, but spoke in riddles and used archaic forms of English to communicate. Pearl became obsessed by the messages that she received and spent an increasing amount of time using the Ouija board. Eventually, her connection to Patience became so strong that the board was no longer needed to communicate. Patience was able to partly possess Pearl and make her voice heard to the world.
Wow.
Number 4 is Aldo Moro.
That voice changed. He got
As well as providing false information, demonic forces often provide something much worse through the use of a Ouija board. They will often mix truth with fiction, which was the case that happened with Aldo Moro. Moro was the leader of the Cristiana Democrat Party in Italy. In March of 1978, he was kidnapped by an extremist group. In an attempt to find out where he had been taken, a group of politicians used a Ouija board. When asked where Moro was being held, failed, the board answered with 3 separate places. All of them were searched, but eventually Moro's dead body was discovered in a place called Via Gradoli in Rome. The Ouija board had led investigators on a merry dance, covering the true location with cryptic hints. It's almost as if whatever was at play took pleasure in the misdirection as well as Moro's death.
Wow. Okay.
Number 3 is Gulf Breeze 6.
Yeah.
On July 9th,
oh my god, so scared. Jeez.
1990,
Oh.
6 highly trained intelligence
Oh my
agents
goodness.
deserted their posts in West Germany and went AWOL. The operatives claimed that they had received important information that the Antichrist himself was about to rise up and rain terror down upon humanity. Known as the Gulf Breeze 6, these skilled agents were determined to stop this from happening. The only way that they could stop this demonic creature was to go underground and track the devil down out of sight. The problem with all of this is that the information came from Ouija board sessions. Could the Antichrist be out there? Well, possibly, but knowing that demonic forces often try to ruin lives, it's equally possible that the Ouija board twisted the minds of those operatives into chasing nothing but shadows, as well as their own madness.
Wow.
Number 2 is Lilac Jimerson.
I mean, number 3 is a lot more.
One of the
scary.
most disturbing demonic Ouija board cases on record was reported in the New York Times. The year was 1930 and 2 women were being accused of murder. The victim was a Miss Clothild Marchand. She was killed by an elderly lady called Nancy Bowen, and the prosecutors claimed that Lilac Jimerson was the reason. Jimerson had been having an affair with the victim's husband, and so it seemed as though the motive for the murder was to kill Miss Marchand so that Jimerson could later marry her husband. What makes the case so startling is that during the trial, the real motive was revealed. Nancy Bowen had received information via a Ouija board that Clothild Marchand had killed Bowen's husband and that taking revenge was needed. Bowen had been manipulated into murder by an unseen demonic force.
Wait, what?
And number 1 is the Santa Clara prison.
Wait, what? In the prison?
In the year 2000,
Really?
at a prison in Santa Clara County, a group of inmates created a
Okay,
Ouija
what-
board
what-
out of
what-
Scrabble
what-
pieces, as well as a
What happened in
piece of
prison?
cardboard to pass the time. But quickly, a dark force attached itself to the group. The
This
Ouija
is
board spelled out
dark.
the words, "I was murdered," and when the inmates asked how, the board spelled out the word "investigate." Soon after, several prisoners began screaming for their lives. Something was locked inside their cells with them. Describing a sinister presence in the prison, inmates, many of them gang members, begged the prison warden to bring in a priest. The disturbance was so great that eventually a priest was brought in to combat the demonic forces that were toying with these hardened criminals. When the malevolent entity disappeared, some of the inmates required counseling for years. That was the ones that survived and did not end their own lives. The stories I just told you were documented and verified as accurate, so remember them next time you decide to use a Ouija board, because it's not all fun and games.
Yeah, it's not
Sweet
fun.
dreams.
Damn. Okay guys, that is a watching of the story of the Ouija board Matthew Santores, and make sure you're watching the Santores video and make subscribe with thumbs up. And before I say about the story, about the horror story about use the Ouija board, do not try it at home. And I make sure scary stuff happening. Okay, before I watching the video about story mas Matthew Santores, I say right, and make sure I try to edit the gun pencil reborn warrior coming out soon tonight. I need to find that video and subscribe for Matthew. So I don't care, but make sure. And before you watching about video about simple history, correction and the video, I try my best to reaction video says something bad, and I try to speak. I'm so scared. It's in my first YouTube I have continued upload, And yeah, more cringe. I'm so very stressful. And make sure you thumbs up for and subscribe for the Matthew Santos. Remember, he said for your nightmare, sweet dreams.